It's a show of strength from the Nittany Lions in Arizona as they bottle up everything running back Ashton Jeanty and advance to the national semifinals.
Got to be mindful, be present, take this in. It was a great win against a great team.
Penn State is now 8 for 8 in the Fiesta Bowl. They win the game and lose the battle with the confetti. No sweat, they're ready to continue this unprecedented journey.
No, it's crazy, like just being in the playoffs for the first time in so long just means a lot.
And broadcasting legend Bob Costas is our impact interview. He recounts the night he was part of the team calling the '87 Fiesta Bowl that decided the national championship between PSU and Miami.
That actually was the thing I remember most from a broadcasting standpoint. How the hell do I get rid of the President of the United States in this moment?
Happy New Year. Let's get ready for the Orange Bowl on Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions assistant coach Jake Paterno. Here we go, the national semifinals, the first Final Four of the playoff expansion era, and it includes PSU.
No question, and they have earned it with wins against SMU, wins against Boise State. It was probably, sometimes with Penn State looked like they could put their foot on the gas and run away from them, but Boise State hung in there. But they did a great job against Jeanty defensively. Great job making them work for everything.
Win number 13 on the season. Here's a guy that knows a thing or two about outstanding defensive efforts. It's longtime Penn State defensive coach Tom Bradley. Tom, the Nittany Lions bottle up the Heisman runner-up Ashton Jeanty. Took a full commitment to keep him in check.
It sure does. You got to give all levels of defense, give him credit. The front four, not getting knocked off the ball. You didn't see a lot of missed tackles, great pursuit lanes, great angles. That was just a tremendous job by the defense against a heck of a running back.
Now, the Nittany Lions record the first quarterfinal win of the new college playoff era. PSU are now pioneers in the sport, and we discuss why this format and this particular team is built for the postseason tournament. Another Fiesta Bowl appearance, another Fiesta Bowl victory for Penn State. Now 8 for 8 in the desert. This one shows the full depth of the talent on this team. Every position group makes an impact in the 31-14 victory, Jay.
No question. We talked about last week about the guys up front on defense keeping the Boise State linemen off the linebackers. Did a great job, and they gang tackled. There were times Jeanty looked like he was going to break a tackle, and there was always another blue shirt there. And on the other side, you had the offense being able to run the ball pretty much at will. Maybe got away from it a little too much, but, at the end of the day, 31-14, great win.
Tom, they bust the Broncos. Sure is nice when you can control the line of scrimmage.
That's the best thing in the world, especially on defense, because they're not getting knocked off the ball. Linebackers have free roam to run. Boy, it was just a great effort up front by the front. They don't get as much credit sometimes because people don't watch that part. They don't see the spectacular stuff that's going on up front, too.
Well, aren't you glad they expanded the format to 12 teams? Penn State follows up the home win over SMU with another convincing performance to bust those Broncos.
We talked in the beginning of the season about our guys having these type of moments and these type of experiences and these type of opportunities. So love the fact that these guys were able to find a win against a really good opponent here. 8-0 in Fiesta Bowls. Penn State loves the Fiesta Bowl. We'll come every year.
We celebrate tonight, and then tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a start for our next opponent in preparation, getting our bodies back to normal, getting back right. But, got to be mindful, be present, take this in. It was a great win against a great team, so excited to spend this time, this night with my guys.
Well, they win another Fiesta Bowl. Coach Franklin loses the battle with the confetti. It can be a little sticky. Huge smile on his face as he guides the team to the semifinals.
Well, we'll break down their next opponent in our roadmap to victory. But, gone are the days when you go to the Fiesta Bowl or even you look at Oregon, Ohio State in the Rose Bowl and the season's over. Now you're back to work for another game. Now this time it's a bowl game in Miami. But, Tom, how different is that when you go from winning a bowl game to where now you got to turn around and get home and then get back on the road?
Well, like they say, it's going to be just a business trip now, right? It's going to be treated like an away game more than a bowl game. That some of the festivities you used to do at bowl games will not be going on. It's going to be all business because they get this one under their belt. They're coming home getting to work to get the next one.
Yeah, one of the things that amazes me, guys, is the traveling show. Tons of coordination to move the entire operation to a bowl state, so they have to scale it back, like you mentioned, Tom, to be a road game. And senior Nick Dawkins said he certainly didn't envision this kind of journey when he committed to Penn State. The players feel like pioneers in the sport, doing something that's never been done before.
No, it's crazy, you know, like just being in the playoffs for the first time in so long just means a lot, especially just being here. My first time in college, you know, being here in the playoffs, you know, it feels amazing, you know. We're going to enjoy this win, and I'll get back to work.
It's a great feeling to me, you know. I feel like, you know, it's rare that people make to the college football semifinals, you know. It's a blessing, you know. It's something that we've been working on. The national championship has been one of our goals every single day. It's on our wall, so it's a great feeling. You know, I'm super happy right now. I'm ready to leave and go have fun.
Well, here's former Nittany Lion Jordan Hill and his family having some fun. Jay Reed was antsy to get out of there and celebrate. He actually forgot it was New Year's Eve. And if you think about an NCAA basketball tournament, of course the teams with the most talent are dangerous. You also see a roster that can adapt to any style of play, or one that's deep enough to absorb injury, experience adversity, and still continue to find a way to win. That sounds a lot like this Penn State squad, Tom.
Yeah, it sure does. And you know, one thing we've been talking offense, Steve, let's not leave out the special teams. They've been doing a great job through this run, and will have to continue to do that if they want to win this whole thing.
Drew Aller looks like a basketball player at 6'5", and I asked him whether he feels a tournament-style format benefits the Nittany Lions.
That's a testament to our Coach Franklin and our coaching staff for recruiting the right guys into our program, and being as competitive as possible, but with that competitiveness also cheering and supporting each other on. It's a family-oriented culture that strives on competitiveness.
Aller ran hot and cold in the game. At one point, though, he had 12 completions, 3 of them for touchdowns with 0 interceptions. That leads to a lot of wins. Up next, what a classic matchup for the semifinals. Penn State versus Notre Dame. We lay out a roadmap to victory over the Irish when we come back.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. Well, looky here. It's the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. A lot of longtime Penn State fans get their wish. The Nittany Lions up against the Golden Domers for a spot in the national championship. Coach Paterno, this matchup jogs a lot of memories. We have another classic in the series. What's it going to take to knock out Notre Dame?
Going to take maybe Penn State's best effort of the year. And when you look at the history of this thing, 12 straight years from 81 to 92, 12 head-to-head matchups. Penn State won 8 of them. They won those games through toughness and defense and special teams. So let's take a look at what it's going to talk about. When you get into a bowl game, one of the things you look at is common opponents. Penn State and Notre Dame both have played Purdue and USC on the road. Very similar results in that regard. And then you take a look at the offensive performance by the numbers against those two teams. And you see very, very similar numbers in that, the one exception being Penn State threw the ball a lot more than Notre Dame. Notre Dame ran the ball a lot better than they did. And then when you talk about players to watch, coordinator Mike Demrock came back from LSU to be there. Riley Leonard, they got 2 good running backs, tight end, and their left tackle's a freshman All-American. So a lot of things to look at here, a talented team. So let's talk about how they get it done. One of the things they did when they got Riley Leonard out of the transfer portal is they got a quarterback who is a run threat in the game. So what that does for you, it evens things up. So they've got 6 in the box. Notre Dame's got 5 blockers. They make the defensive end play the quarterback, and you see how that reacts here, what happens to them. The defensive end has to respect the quarterback run game. He can't chase this guy down. And now this is their second tailback, number 24. He gets in the end zone. Let's talk about how important it is when you have that quarterback running back game, and then you have the pass game and scramble. You've got to contain. This is a core offense that's going to focus on running backs, tight ends, and quarterback run game. Watch what happens when USC's defensive end just sticks his nose inside, loses contain for 1/10 of a second, and now it's a first down, 20-yard gain. Talked about the core of this thing being an inside attack here. They're physical up front. So when you bring the run blitzes on first down like USC does here, you create matchups, and they will take those matchups and throw the ball in those run downs against you. Here's their tight end matched up against the safety. This will be a big matchup to watch for on game day. Again, great job here by the tight end making that one. when you're lining up on defense or when you're a fan in the stands, know which running back is in. Number 4, their starting tailback, much more active in the pass game. They'll get him involved in the screens where they get people downfield and blocking. And when you do that, it gets him the ball in space with a chance to get some things done just like he does here. And again, these guys are dangerous with the ball. Now let's talk about them defensively now. When you look at, again, same thing, by the numbers against Purdue and USC, very, very similar numbers. So you're looking at very similar types of units, very physical up front. Now let's talk about the next part of it. Players to watch: Al Golden, defensive coordinator, 1991 captain of Penn State. Safety is a big-time player, and they're good up front as well. What they want to do is create matchups, and they're going to get their corners rolled up on you. That's going to force things into the boundary and the field safeties, and the question will be how they match up with Tyler Warren. Take a look at the video here. Again, they're going to try and make you match up. So even if your best wideout's inside, they're going to take the corner and move them in. They like run blitzes. They'll come after you. They'll be aggressive against Penn State. Talk about the blitz, multiple blitz looks. They want to get the quarterback rattled and get him uncomfortable. There were times, we'll take a look at the video, there were times against Boise State where they gave Penn State multiple blitz looks that got Drew Aller a little out of sorts and rattled and took some sacks. Look for them to do the same thing here. They did that to USC. Now, again, they want to blitz to force the action. They are very, very aggressive up front. They will get the safeties freed up to help. Blitzes create chaos, and chaos creates turnovers. And then once you do that, they read what you do, and they create those turnovers and big plays. They lead the country in turnovers. They have 4 pick sixes. Penn State has got to be careful with the football and not allow those things to happen, get rattled and do that. And finally, in special teams, if there's a major edge where there's a difference, field goals. Notre Dame was under 50%. That's been a problem for them. They blocked 6 kicks, though, for the year. That's just first in the country. Defensive tackle Bryce Young, who stands 6'7", has blocked 2 field goals and 1 punt. And watch for that on game day, and that is your roadmap to victory.
Thanks, Coach. I'm going to be in Miami after spending a few days in Arizona. I know, rough assignments during the winter months. For the players, it's game number 16. Feels like an NFL schedule, and I caught up with a former NFL and Penn State linebacker, Super Bowl champion, and Big Ten network analyst, Matt Millen. He said, don't worry about the number of games they've played. They're young. They can handle it.
They're college kids. If they're tired, something's wrong. The NFL, you got 17 weeks a season. So, I mean, I remember at 35 years old, my last year, yeah, you were tired. At 19 and 20, forget it. If they're tired, take a hike.
To be young again. Everyone knows this is a special opportunity. They'll worry about the wear and tear whenever this run is over. Still to come, our Impact interview with Bob Costas. So many things we could talk about with one of the greatest broadcasters ever. His thoughts on the new era in college football when we return. Stay tuned for more Nittany Game Week.
These are more than just trucks. Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. This week's Impact interview is a legend in every way, Bob Costas. That's all I really need to say, other than he has more Emmys than the World Series titles of the New York Yankees, 29-27. He's winning on the scoreboard, if we have that correct. Bob, thanks so much. First and foremost, Happy New Year. And we're so happy that one of your New Year's resolutions was to make an appearance on Nittany Game Week. We couldn't be more honored.
Yeah, as December unfolded, and I thought about the things that I need to check off my bucket list or adjust about my life, one of the things that popped up was I got to get together with Todd and Jay. So now we're checking that box, which is a great relief to me.
Thanks again so much. And look, we're going to take you back to where the roots for maybe these college football playoffs go. And it's NBC, the Fiesta Bowl, naming's corporate sponsor. November 86, they're talking about it. They upped the payout, moved the game to January 2nd, and land at Penn State and Miami, a game that drew a 25 rating, still the best in college football history. You covered the game. What recollections do you have of it, and how much does the current playoff system maybe owe to that moment?
Well, even in that situation where you had a clear number one and a clear number two, so there wasn't that much dispute, I think a lot of people began to think, wait a minute, isn't there a better way? You know, we don't have to go 28 teams deep or anything like that, but isn't there a better way? So I remember the conversation taking place even then, but there was satisfaction after this one because number one met number two. And Penn State prevailed. And when you look at the stats, and I know, Jay, you're familiar with it, Miami gained more than 400 yards, and Penn State had less than 200. And the first downs were like 22-8. But Miami turned the ball over 7 times. And Vinny Testaverde, who won the Heisman that year, threw 5 interceptions in the game, including one right at the end in a last gasp chance to win the game for Miami because the final score is 14-10. So I remember all the buildup too. And I don't know if Jimmy Cefalo was a late ad, but Jimmy, of course, Penn State guy, was part of NBC Sports then. Really nice guy. I haven't crossed paths with him in quite some time, but he was part of the broadcast. And Ahmad Rashad and I did the pregame, the halftime, and the postgame. But the halftime included an interview from the White House with President Reagan. And Tom Brokaw did a news update. So Tom's sitting right next to me. And now I'm interviewing Reagan. Hey, it's the President of the United States. I'm only 35 years old. I look like I'm 25 years old. And Brokaw's sitting arm's length from me. So I'm pretty nervous doing it. And then Reagan did one of these things that was really endearing for him. But the clock was ticking. And they were going to start the third quarter. And he starts to tell this story about playing the Gipper in the Newt Rockne story, and about recreating baseball games when he lived in Des Moines, Iowa, all of which is very endearing, but it's tick, tick, tick. Now, do I jump in there and say, hey, Mr. President, gotta go, have a nice night? You know, so that actually was the thing I remember most from a broadcasting standpoint. How the hell do I get rid of the President of the United States in this moment?
Well, you know, Bob, as a Penn State trustee now, I've been fairly vocal about the time having arrived for collective bargaining and revenue sharing in big-time college sports. So given the big media payouts that we're seeing, as this playoff unfolds, what are your thoughts about the state of college football and its current, quote, labor arrangement?
This can't be sustained. You know, when people talked about NIL, the original concept I think that most people had in mind is this. Hey, if a sophomore who's a music prodigy has a chance to play in the local symphony where his college is located, no one's going to stop him or her from making money off of that. And so if a big time college player or any college player has an arrangement where a local car dealer wants to pay him to, endorse their car dealership, why shouldn't that player be able to capitalize on that name, image, likeness? And the flip side of that was that I think the Ed O'Bannon suit, former UCLA basketball player, said, wait a minute, this is me on this video game. That's my name. That's my image, my likeness, and I'm not seeing a cent from that. And I think most people sympathize with that. But now it's become something entirely different, where basically you're buying players. You're making them offers to either come to your school or leave the school they're at and come to your school, which may be free enterprise, but it's very chaotic. College football is much more chaotic than the NBA, the NFL, MLB, or the NHL. And I don't know that I have the exact formula, but they've got to kind of reconcile the differing interests here. We know, sadly, that much of college sports has been corrupt for quite some time. But I think some people were willing to live with the corruption, but not now with the chaos. So they've got to come up with something that has some sort of continuity and makes some sense.
Always time well spent listening to Bob Costas. We need to step aside from the TV show for a quick break, but make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com. You have got to hear the entire conversation with one of the best ever, Bob Costas, along with our other web-exclusive content like our depth chart and Nittany Game Week podcast. Can't forget about our scrap metal. Tom eyes up the D for this week's pick. why he earned the Most Valuable Defensive Player Award in the Fiesta Bowl. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
The Nittany Game Week Depth Chart is brought to you by Burke and Bradley Orthopedics. Located in Pittsburgh, Burke and Bradley Orthopedics is a comprehensive sports medicine practice, providing patients with the most current and innovative approaches in diagnosis and treatment. Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are Inn, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit theweareinn.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Well, welcome back. He's been a huge part of the secondary all season, especially in the absence of KJ Winston. Zacchae Wheatley carries around the hardware after the Fiesta Bowl as the defensive MVP. He's now also our scrap metal winner, Tom.
Yeah, finally, it's great to get back to a defensive guy winning the award. Safety, Zacchae Wheatley, #6 from Archbishop Spalding High School down in Maryland. Hey, big-time players make big-time plays, and Zacchae Wheatley makes several of them. He gets a fumble recovery after Kobe King scripts Ashton Genty. Then, later in the game, he picks off one to help ice the victory in the Fiesta Bowl. Also had 3 tackles. He'll need another great performance in the upcoming Orange Bowl.
Well, it's trivia time again. Last week's question, Ashton Genty, Heisman runner-up, has rushed for over 2,000 yards this year. Who was the first 2,000-yard rusher that Penn State ever faced in a bowl game? Penn State beat Marcus Allen in the 1981 season Fiesta Bowl, held him to 85 yards on 33 carries. This week's question, Penn State heads to the Orange Bowl. Penn State has a 4-1 record in the Orange Bowl. What years did Penn State win the Orange Bowl and finish undefeated?
Well, in addition to a television show, we're bringing Nittany Lions together with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. We're connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps our hometowns strong. It's getting deep in the season. If you want to revisit or review anything that's happened so far, there's a place we encourage you to visit. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for previous episodes and all of our web-exclusive content. I'd say a run to the national semifinals is something to be proud of. We finished with Pride Picks. Show us your spirit and submit your pictures on our website. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.